Are you going to spend your money on City Skylines 2? One of the most unfinished games ever released.
Hey, and we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. As usual, it's me, Jake. We're in our busy season. Today we're talking about City Skylines 2.
Dude, the graphics just look so horrid.
Now, this is the follow-up to the absolutely friggin' monumental City Skylines. One of the best city builders to ever do it, in my opinion.
True.
SimCity really stumbled and fell after EA messed up with that whole thing. And Cities was there to pick up the ball and run with it. That game is awesome. I haven't mentioned it in videos much here, but I'm a big fan of city builders, and I've casually played a lot of the first game. I'd have bouts like every year or so where I'd download it again and get hooked and dump hours and hours into it. Now, while I'm not filling the game to the brim with mods or anything like getting ultra hardcore, I just love playing it. City Skylines has been really well supported for years, and I can't speak to the console version, but the PC version has had a bunch of updates, a metric ton of DLCs and add-ons and game changers, and then the
metric ton of DLC is true, but City Skylines is probably in my top 5 worst DLC games of all time, honestly. Because if you're going to play City Skylines 1, and this is probably going to be 100% true for City Skylines 2, considering everything we know, go find a YouTube guide that tells you which expansions you need to buy. Because some City Skyline expansions are just flat out garbage. Do not buy. It's a waste of money. They add nothing.
Modder scene take it even further and made the game even more in-depth and incredible. So now here, just setting the stage, City Skylines 2 kind of wipes the slate clean, I guess, starting with a new, more in-depth and presumably adaptable foundation to once again, hopefully, live on in the hearts and minds of city builders for years to come. Now, we've been playing a review copy, although we didn't get our hands on it as early as some places, so this is just first impressions. I've worked my way through one big city build, and it's very clear to me that the game achieves a lot, but it's just out way too early.
It looks not that bad from afar, but the moment you zoom in and try to look at things, it's like, my eyes, they're bleeding.
I'm going to address this up front because it's going to be all the comments and a lot of the conversation around the game. I mean, look at this video on screen here. City Skylines 2 does not look great. This isn't my machine. This is across the board the experience for most people, you know, to varying degrees because everybody's machine is different. But City Skylines 2 feels extremely undercooked and not optimized.
Essentially, he's trying to say in a very bad way, so I'll just translate it. He's running the game at good graphics settings, and if you tone it down, oh boy, does this game look like it should have come out in the 2000s. Early.
Everything at medium and low, just in the hopes of kind of getting 30 frames per second. No matter what I did, the game looked pretty ugly and ran poorly. Yep. I bring this up not because I'm like a frame rate counter or like a pixel counter or anything tech heavy. I'm not Digital Foundry, but this does here severely affect the experience. The enjoyment factor is lessened because the game just isn't very smooth most of the time and is harsh on the eyes. Yeah, after a while, you can get it barely acceptable running, but even then, the bigger your city gets, by nature, the problem will grow.
The classic problem of city builders.
And, you know, even when you zoom in, there's not a lot of granular detail and there's a lot of weird bugs and glitches. You'll occasionally just get a weird build where things clip through each other. Sometimes the terraforming looks a little weird. Cars will just clip through each other. Sometimes I've seen a couple of them go through buildings and go through roads. I
can already see a traffic conjunction here, but you know, that's okay.
It's upsetting that they put the game out this early because it didn't need to be this way.
That was game lag when he zoomed in. That wasn't a video lag.
They put the game out this early because it didn't need to.
Yep. That's straight up game lag, not video lag. Nice.
Be this way. I
Wow.
love City Skylines, but I think, and maybe most of the community as well, would have patiently waited as long as it would have taken for the game to be released in an acceptable state. Especially with the amount of other games out right now, like begging for your time, that feel way more polished and finished. It's rough. Now, having said that, the base of the
A grid city. Man, bro, you're just asking for traffic to destroy you.
game is mostly great, technical stuff aside. It's got some nice refinements, improvements, and additions that feels like it's trying to bring cities to the next level. Like, right off the bat, you can feel Cities Skylines 2 is big. Like, it just feels way more massive. Like, you just feel like you have a much larger...
Oh yeah, that's not gonna completely destroy destroy every. Are you trying to make your city's traffic so bad that people die on the road, or what's the deal here?
Palette in front of you. There
No,
are like
don't do
a ton
that!
of tiles,
Oh,
many of
no.
which have annoying elevation you need to tweak with
Oh,
the finicky
no.
terraforming system seemingly everywhere.
Oh no!
But you can very quickly just start buying up tons of tiles and expanding your land, and the game encourages it. It's not unrealistic now to have suburbs like really far away from a city, or maybe like a bunch of farms way out in the country, way out in like a corner of your map. And it's cool. You can get pretty wide pretty quickly thanks to some really great feeling building tools. Like, first of all, electricity is pretty simple, and you're not as bogged down in plopping power lines everywhere. It's one of the few parts of the game that actually goes more hands off instead of more hands on, but it works.
Grumkuch Altum Sprit. Brav.
But thankfully, if you're like a power nerd, you can get more granular in the actual power management. Less about just running lines and getting caught up in that. Now, the road system is great. It's super quick and easy to create massive grids, long curvy roads, complicated intersections, roundabouts, everything, all in seconds.
You don't want to create grids. Stop. No, you don't want to create grids.
The tools don't feel finicky. They're just as precise and as flexible as they should feel, and they adapt easily. The game also makes it really easy to fix your work, like make your roads bigger even, or add stuff to them in a pinch. Changing a road later on isn't much of a headache as it used to be. Like, it can still be tricky, but little things they do just make it easier where it matters.
That's cool, though. That's really cool.
Like, say you have an intersection and it's causing a bunch of traffic jams, so you want to add a roundabout or a traffic circle instead to kind of free things up. The game very easily lets you just click and drop it right in, and the game will automatically rezone or delete or you know, bulldoze certain things around.
Look at this! There's an assembly of a skill of a develop. Ooh, I like this. I really actually like this. Nice. Okay, this looks like a survival city build, and I honestly kind of really like that. The idea that City Skylines is going to be a survival city builder, that would be amazing.
Around it. But to see the game, like the roads, the sidewalks, everything adapt to that roundabout, and the game also not completely destroy everything around it as you plop it down.
It just
feels
nice.
Thoughtfully integrated and just really well done. Smaller things, the game has seasons, which is pretty nice to see in action. I like it way more than the day-night cycle, which you can turn off. It seems way too dark in this game in particular.
The day and night cycle was always trash. Don't even get me started on that garbage. The day and night cycle shouldn't have not even been in the game. The night cycle just makes you feel, okay, this is boring. What now?
I had a hard time playing and building and doing things at night. But speaking of seasons, while the little visual changes are nice, the game does seem to lack a bit of the granular fun stuff it used to have in terms of detail. Like, you don't really see people doing as much fires and stuff like that. You used to have like fire trucks pull up and like all this stuff going on. Now a truck will just pull up to a fire, like one fire truck, and then it'll just sit there for a bit, and then eventually the fire disappears. Like,
oh, that's a complete downgrade. The big problem with City Skylines is he can actually talk about it because it doesn't feel like it. The problem with City Skylines 2 is that it's undercooked to hell. It is just the most undercooked thing in the history of ever. This is Bethesda levels of release quality right here. Fallout 76 is currently writing down tips from City Skylines 2 on how to be an undercooked shitty game. Okay, that's what's currently happening. And the worst part about this is, as I mentioned previously, if you haven't played City Skylines 1, a lot of the DLC is just useless garbage that doesn't really add anything. Some DLC is just like one fucking building for $30. It's a shit show, okay? And City Skylines 2 has released in this state, where they haven't even copied over everything from City Skylines 1, and they said that they do want to do it. They want to get all the things that City Skylines 1 had in 2, which means they're not going to add this stuff as free DLC. Well, maybe they're going to add something as free DLC, for example, their lowest selling DLCs. Maybe that's going to be added as free free downloadable content that you're just going to update the game with. But the reality is, most likely a lot of the content that you had in City Skylines 1 that you don't have in 2 is at some point going to be added as payable downloadable content as an expansion pack, which is horrible. You have an undercooked game, and then you're gonna have to rebuy the pieces from one that you want to play again. It's gonna be really bad.
That stuff seemingly is not there yet. There's also not really any like decorative props I could find other than vegetation. While the game has a lot of transit and other civic options like mailbox drops and bus stops, you don't have a lot of control over like the more superfluous details on the streets. The fun decorative stuff that doesn't matter, but I still think some people
Oh,
will
it's
want
districts. Okay, wow, we got it. We got a usable district tool. Ho! I mean, okay, maybe they did improve something. Wow, a usable district tool. Holy moly.
Some people will want that. Where the detail is with the district tool. Now, you can create designated areas that only get certain...
Yeah, that's what you expect from someone who has played City Skylines. District tool that works! Panic attack, yeah.
Types of service, and you can enact certain policies just for these sections. It's for efficiency, really.
By the way, while I'm saying district tool cool, at the same time, I do think the districts honestly kind of suck dick. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a fan of how districts work at all. I mean, I understand that. By the way, I'm a minority. I understand most people like districts. I don't. I personally just don't. And this is a 100% personal opinion that you are in full entitled to disagree with, and I know you disagree with. I personally just don't really enjoy districts that much. I don't think they added... I don't think it was... I just don't see the point in them. I would just rather have a overall better city building thing than concentrating on districts. I would rather have that.
Basically, instead of everything you do or enact that blankets the entire city, here you can just section it up a little bit. Then you can also click a created district and get at-a-glance information about just that certain area, so you can keep things a little organized. Plus, I just like when you zoom out and you...
By the way, he dropped the parking a lot. I can't wait to someday play this game, drop a parking lot, and see absolutely no one use it. And there's gonna still be probably super crazy conjunctions in the cities. And you know what's the stupidest part? You can't actually play City Skylines without traffic mod, because for some reason this is a simulation. City Skylines, do not forget, is an actual simulation where every character is supposed to simulate what they're gonna do, where they're gonna drive to, and so on and so on and so on. But the crazy thing about this is you can't play it without the traffic mod, and I'm pretty sure, considering I have heard no one say anything about it, that it doesn't exist in City Skylines 2. The traffic is so bad in City Skylines 1 that I'm personally one of those people, and I know a lot of people who play the game until the point where traffic just becomes completely unmanageable in your city, and there's no way to fix it. I talked about this last time, but I'm going to talk about it again, okay? So, I had a place that I designated in industrial stuff with. And it was pretty popular. It wasn't the biggest one, but at the start there was one road to it, and it was kind of made so, you know, it's pretty wide, it's pretty big like that. So, you don't need to technically use one road to it because I planned ahead in the future. Because I knew at some point there's going to be too many cars there and it's going to create traffic. And that moment, of course, now there's traffic there. Now, I do the thing, and I extend the road. Bam, bam. And that should fix it. Because the industrial place is split off, so, you know, definitely some people are going to want to use the other road. Because it just makes sense, right? It's logically the same or even less distance depending on which side of the road your work is on. Guess what? No one uses the second road. Everyone's still stuck in traffic at that road. Even a year after, everyone's still stuck in. Why do they not use the second road? I don't know. And also, there's absolutely zero basic, driving laws used in these games. I don't know. It's just like red go, green don't go. It's completely ass. This game is barely playable without a traffic mod.
Can see all of your districts named, kind of like neighborhoods on Google Maps. And speaking of these districts, you can now do specialized industries that have strategic placement, kind of like something like civilization, like in a Civ game. You can plant a farm, but you're going to want to plant it specifically where the land is fertile, or you're going to want to build a lumber mill where there's a
that already was in City Skylines 1.
Large cluster of trees, or a quarry near like a bunch of stones on the map, stuff like that. You can actually drag and draw lines to create farmlands, and it's fun to get creative and like work around the resources you're given. And this all ties into your economy, which has a lot you'd expect, like, you know, managing taxes and public spending, getting loans and paying them, all that boring stuff. But something about it all doesn't seem as super in-depth as it could be. Graphs and breakdowns, like for public spending, are simple. And I'd like to see it broken down into more of what's going on. I understand there's a balance.
Oh, so this is just a logistics depot giant, whatever he's doing right there? Huh, interesting.
That the
That's
developers
cool.
have to do, because this stuff can get boring and it can get lost in the weeds, but some of it seems a little vague, a little too vague. That comes into issue when things get complex with your build and like problems crop up, and sometimes it's hard to identify what exactly the issue is because of like this lack of information or the way it's displayed. Now, a progression overhaul is pretty cool. I dig it here. It's different. Maybe some hardcore fans may not like this, but I like working towards stuff. So you don't just progress through population increasing.
True. I did not know that this was a thing, but yeah, something in City Skylines that I always felt was missing was like active goals. Your only goal was a progression of money, and essentially, a lot of people were playing the game just, you know, rushing to get the population as fast as possible, which is kind of boring. So, you know.
XP by doing stuff and leveling up. The XP is gained through, like, you know, population growth, of course, but also increasing citizens' happiness and just doing things like building and adding good things. And as you level up, your city goes from little thing to small town to busy town to eventually a big city. And as you level up these ranks, you unlock access to doing more. And this is how the game kind of eases you in and doesn't overwhelm you with options right at the start. You're also earning...
We can see the fire clipping.
Skill points to then spend on basically a skill tree that unlocks stuff for each category. Like, say, in the transportation category, you can unlock an airport, or in the hospital, you can then unlock specialists, or road maintenance depots for roads and stuff like that.
Okay.
Now, these are things that aren't essential to have unlocked right away, but then are fairly easy to unlock at about the time you'd probably...
What's with this neighborhood? Everyone has solar rooftops.
...be needing it or wanting
Look at this.
it, at
There's
least
so
in my
many.
experience. It could dry up for people at certain points, pacing-wise, but so far I like the way it's paced. It could slow down, but Along with this, extensions for buildings are nice and easy.
Oh my god, they're fucking near the airport. That's just gonna destroy their property value. Oh boy.
Like, click a special building,
Oof.
and then there's an easy bit of options to spend money and expand operations, capacities, abilities, like a bus depot for mass transit. You have a bus depot, right? Are you running out of buses? Add some garages to the side of the depot to get more buses. Having trouble getting some far-off citizens to the hospital in an emergency? Add a helipad or an intensive care wing or something like that to your hospital. Some of these will take up...
Yeah, that doesn't actually make it better in the real life. Adding a fucking helicopter doesn't actually save lives in these... Yeah, that's nice. And that's funny.
More space, like more land, but it's worth it. There's a lot of detail to it, and it's pretty satisfying because it's usually a visual change as well.
Bro, I don't like when you're supposed to build a city, but you know how the city functions is just, you know, some rando dude's fucking ideas of how cities function, and they're not based on real life. Adding a helicopter pad is not gonna save anyone in the fucking city. It's a helicopter. It needs to land so you could actually... Bruh, it's gonna barely save anyone. It's worse than just, you know, putting an ambulance on standby in a location.
As a tangible, beneficial one. Now, what helped me realize just how good some of these updates and additions and cleanups are, it's actually pretty fun now to go back and fix or update stuff. The game does a really good job of just going with the flow. Like, fixing stuff on the fly or down the line, like further on, is actually fun. It's not aggravating or as tedious. There's still stuff here and there. You're always going to fiddle with certain things. It's a city builder. But the flexibility of this game and just throwing stuff at it and it keeping going and being somewhat forgiving makes it fun to play. So the way it all goes down, because these are just first impressions, it's hard to judge how it'll all really flow into high-level play. Like, I'm talking like 60 hours into a build. Will the game collapse? Will it still feel fun?
Dude, it's gonna collapse 100%. There's no shot it doesn't.
I think
60
probably,
hours
but
in.
I don't know. I do think, however it's paced, even if there are some issues or my issues, just like with some problems not being super clear, it doesn't matter too much right now. What matters is that I think the game needs more time.
Ooh, that was super smooth. Look at that.
Super clear. It doesn't matter too much.
Look at this. Bam.
Right now.
Dude, that's really good. Wow.
What matters is that I think the game needs more time in the oven. It's got a lot of great stuff figured out, but technically wise, I think it's still released in a pretty unacceptable state. And I hate this because, one, the game deserves...
I mean, the game... Okay, so this is how the real deal, the real cheese explanation. Are you ready for it? I hope you are, because I'm going to only do it once. Unless you... just scroll back the video a bit, then I'll do it twice, okay? So, currently, do not buy this game. You are better off just playing the base version of Cities Skylines 1. That's just the reality. 2, well, it's probably gonna be okay in a year, but a year is a long time to wait, and that depends on how many DLCs they add at that time, because this is Cities Skylines. It is owned... I don't remember what company actually makes this game, but that company is by default notorious for DLC. So, you know, is it gonna be a good game? It's already a playable game, let's be real. But it's gonna probably be way better in a year or two than it is now, because again, it's woefully undercooked. But it depends on how many useless trash must-have DLCs they add to this game that you are gonna have to buy for, like, you know, 10 to 30 bucks each. And that's gonna be a big hit.
Better, but also, 2, hopefully, a year from now, it makes this video, like, completely out of date. This stuff is bad, but at least the foundation seems solid. But for now, I would wait. Is it easy to recommend waiting, even if the launch was solid? Because, you know, the developers will probably be adding DLC and modders will take control of it. Yeah, sure, but in the...
modders can, you know, absolutely just go off themselves. Hey, anyway, that was Gamer Ranks. pretty good channel. They do the before you buy. It's pretty good most of the time. This time, it's clear that they wanted to be super friendly, and they did not point out a lot of bad things about the game just because they had a pre-release copy, which means they have no integrity. But you expect that from big channels. Anyway, this was Quizzer Citizen. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and have a nice day. Bye bye.